How's it going, everyone? Today's topic, I want to discuss in depth a Jackson National Variable Annuity, and in particular, one of the more popular products known as the Jackson Perspective 2 Variable Annuity. So I'm going to explain to you the 30,000-foot view of what it is, what are some of the features with it, some different things when going through their prospectus, things that I've noticed, some problems with it, some things to avoid about this. And then, what's my non-biased opinion about the Jackson variable annuity when you're comparing it against other avenues, whether that be other types of accounts, other types of products that may suit your situation, more mathematically efficient regarding what you're trying to accomplish. If you have any questions regarding this video, regarding the different details about this type of account, what the dollars are that can be placed in there, what are some other solutions, feel free to give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002 to speak with an advisor, and just make sure to reference this video so that we could make sure that the correct advisor is on the line and could explain things more thoroughly. So to get started, whenever we look at a variable annuity or any sort of account, I want you to think of it as the larger picture, the 30,000-foot view. So how any account grows is, if you think of it conceptually like a bucket, the contributions that someone's placing into their bucket, and then the rate of return that's coming back. So if somebody went and they put money underneath their mattress, they would go and put, say somebody threw $100,000 as an example underneath their mattress. They're adding monies underneath their mattress. It's sitting in a cash position of $100,000, and the rate of return, because it's sitting underneath the mattress, would be 0%. It's not gaining anything because it's not being invested. It's not, nothing's growing, nothing's losing. So that's one side of the coin of how any sort of account grows. The opposite side of the coin is if we're leveraging investments. And when somebody uses investments, they would be making those same contributions into an account, but the rate of return would be based on how well those investments perform. So if those investments come back positive, there would be positives added to the bucket. If the investments come back negative, meaning their rate of return, the performance comes back negative, well, then there would be negatives. Or think about somebody taking a sword and slicing this bucket. So that bucket will get smaller. On top of it, when you start adding different nuances to this bucket and you're leveraging investments as an example, you have different holes that come out of the bottom of this bucket. And these holes are incorporated as fees. So you might have expense ratios if you have it set up with certain investments. If, let's say, you're leveraging an insurance-based product that's tied to variable related accounts, then you're going to have different insurance-related costs with that. The actual sub-accounts that they're in are going to have their own cost. If, let's say, you're trying to add different features and benefits, that's going to have its own cost of like an income rider or a death benefit rider. Majority of those have some sort of cost involved. So when you take a step back and you're looking at this, you understand, okay, anything that I'm going to place my money into, it's going to grow whenever I'm adding monies into that account and the rate of return is coming back positive. The negatives are downward market losses and fees. So if we understand what the negatives are, what are there ways that you could start to reduce those negatives? So this is where I felt it appropriate to do this review, because I've noticed a lot of people got set up into these sorts of plans and they might not really understand what's involved with this sort of account and how that works. So as I clear up the screen, the most basic components of a variable annuity, or in particular this sort of variable annuity, is an individual could place different sorts of monies into this account. They could leverage dollars from their cash accounts or their non-IRA monies or non-qualified accounts, meaning they sold a business, they sold their house, whatever purpose is that they have cash essentially sitting in a non-qualified position. They could go and leverage IRA accounts, like traditional IRA accounts. So let's say if somebody has a 401k through their work and they're nearing retirement, or they're eligible to take this money and roll it over into an IRA, they could take their monies and take it from the qualified retirement account and place it into a traditional IRA, which is another qualified retirement account, because it's going to be like-to-like terms, rather than take out a full distribution and have to pay taxes on that. Basically keeps it in there. So you could have this sort of account set up with traditional IRA monies, non-qualified monies, and also Roth IRA monies. So if somebody has a Roth 401k, they want to do a rollover, that could work. If, let's say, they have a Roth IRA and they want to transfer a portion into this Roth IRA, that could work. So the purpose of kind of explaining it this way is individuals have that misconception that they can only put non-IRA monies into an annuity. And that's not the case. You could go add IRA monies, Roth IRA monies, or non-qualified monies, and it's just going into a type of product. Just like if you went and you took cash, you put it into a checking account or a bank CD, that's going into a type of product. You could go and have an IRA in a bank CD. You could go and have a Roth IRA with a bank CD. It's just the type of product. So this is just the type of product that it's sitting in that's going to give it the different features. An IRA does not necessarily have to be tied to investments. So just be mindful on, ultimately how this works. So and the basic components of this is it's tied to the market. So with the Jackson variable annuity, just like any variable annuity, just like that bucket, the rate of return is going to be based on how well that the investments perform. So the investments within a variable annuity are called sub-accounts. And what happens is anytime that those investments or those mutual funds go down in value, well, then there's going to be negatives to this account. Anytime it gains in value, well, then there's going to be positives to that account. So that's how that rate of return side is going to work with the variable annuity. And that's specifically referring to the physical money, to their actual account value, meaning the monies that they've contributed into the account, and then what that account is doing. Is it gaining or is it losing? So if the market is doing well, and let's say that an individual chose different mutual funds and sub-accounts that were tied to the market, well, then they would be seeing positives added into their physical money. If, let's say, the markets are going down, well, then that's going to be negatives from downward market loss potential that every variable product essentially has. So that's how your actual physical money is working regarding that, the basic components of the variable annuity. Now, where it gets a little bit confusing, this is typically individuals, they start making mistakes, is what is an income rider, death benefit rider, liquidity rider? What exactly does that mean? And how it's pitched is an individual would go place money into this account, and the advisor may say, hey, if you want to receive lifetime income from this Jackson National variable annuity, if you wait 5 years, or if you wait 3 years, if you wait 10 years, the dollar amount that you placed in there is going to be calculated and we're going to produce you a specific lifetime income stream in those future years. So like as an example, if somebody is age 60 and they place money into a variable annuity with an income rider, there might be some sort of cash flow that's guaranteed by the claims paying ability of the insurance company that's offering it, some sort of cash flow at age 65. So maybe if somebody put $100,000 in, they're saying, okay, if we attach an income rider to this, by the time you hit age 65, this $100,000 will be able to pay you $5,000 every year to the day that you pass away. So it's just an additional feature. It's a rider that's being attached onto the base account. Individuals would leverage the income rider if they want to receive lifetime income at a later date. It does not make any mathematical sense to add an income rider to an account if you're not looking to generate income for that specific account. So, and I'm going to go over how that income rider calculation works regarding lifetime income withdrawals, so you could decipher, a good income rider versus a bad income rider. But that's one aspect. And they're not nice. They're not just going to tell you, hey, here's an income rider. We're going to give you this feature to produce lifetime income as your physical money is going to ebb and flow with the market. We're going to have some sort of cost associated with that income rider. Same thing with the death benefit rider. So the basic component of a death benefit would say whatever is remaining in your account value, so your physical money, that bucket that I was mentioning, you add in contributions into the account, and it's going to ebb and flow based on the rate of return that comes back. So you know that this is your actual account value. This is the dollars in your bucket. If you do not add a death benefit rider, and let's say you're living and you start taking out withdrawals, and then all of a sudden that individual passes away, whatever's remaining in the account balance would get left over to beneficiaries. So that's, one of the features is a very basic feature, just saying if you pass away prematurely or whatever year you pass away and there's still money in your account value, that's going to get left over to beneficiaries. The difference between that, which is just the base of the account, and a death benefit rider is there's an additional calculation that's going to grow how much money your beneficiaries would receive. And that calculation, that roll-up, was known as the death benefit value or the death benefit rider value. So what I mean by that is, let's say if somebody went and they put $100,000 into an account, and after a few years, this account grows to $120,000. And they just went with the base contract, and they didn't add any death benefit rider to it. If this person was to pass away, $120,000 would get left over to beneficiaries. Now, if, let's say, at contract inception, they set up a death benefit rider, and that death benefit rider had some sort of guaranteed roll-up on there, and same thing, their physical money sitting at $120,000, but they added a death benefit rider. Now, that death benefit account value is sitting at, let's say, $140,000. What happens? Well, because this individual added the death benefit rider, when this person passes away, the death benefit will get left over to the beneficiaries, which will be higher than what the actual physical money is. So a death benefit rider, just like the income rider, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's a specific cost to have that death benefit rider attached. On top of it, when we actually look underneath the hood on the literature and the prospectus, there's this death benefit rider may not be in force if you execute income and if your account balance hits $0. So I'll go over the exact verbiage of what it shows through their website and the different literature directly through their website so you can see what I'm talking about. But we understand, if somebody adds an income rider, that's going to have a cost. If somebody adds a death benefit rider, that's going to have a cost. If somebody adds an income rider and a death benefit rider, that's going to have two different aspects of cost on top of the cost to be within the variable annuity. Now, liquidity rider, this works a little bit different. Basically, what that means, and with typical variable annuities, you have access, like an individual could go place money into a Jackson variable annuity or other types of variable annuities. And the Jackson variable annuity, the base product, has a 7-year decreasing surrender schedule. So that means if somebody placed their money in there and they tried to fully remove their dollars and they didn't wait the full 7 years, they would get dinged with a surrender charge. Jackson allows an individual to add on a liquidity rider feature that says, okay, for another cost, if instead of being 7 years into the plan, if you want to fully remove your monies after 4 years, so a 4-year decreasing surrender schedule will create this liquidity rider for you. So once again, there's a cost for that. So if you want to go into the base product, there's not going to be a cost for the liquidity rider. If instead of somebody wanting not a 7-year surrender schedule, but they want a 4-year surrender schedule, then there's going to be a cost for that through a liquidity rider. So that's where an individual has to be careful, because these little riders are adding features to the specific account, to the physical money, whether that be somebody created this account with a non-qualified monies, an IRA money, or Roth money. Their physical money is going to ebb and flow with the market. Their physical money is also going to get hurt with income rider fees, death benefit rider fees, and the different variable annuity fees that are packed within this sort of account. So you have to be careful. There's always, for everything that you're adding on, is going to have a further detriment that's going to put pressure against your physical money. So to just take a step back, we understand that how this account is created could either be with IRA, Roth IRA, or non-qualified monies. Whatever somebody makes contribution, that's adding a positive into the bucket, and then the rate of return that's coming back is either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. So that's the person's physical money. Little holes on the bottom of this bucket are the fees. You have the different fees related to the variable annuity base contract, and then you also have somebody adds an income rider fee, a death benefit rider fee, a liquidity rider fee, and some other fees. Those are negatives. Those are little holes that are spilling out the bottom of the bucket. It's making money spill at the bottom of the bucket if you think of it conceptually. So how does an income rider work? We understand the purpose of an income rider is to generate lifetime income for either a single individual or an individual and their spouse, a joint individuals. So how exactly does that calculation work? And this is something that I'm going to explain in an example. It's not going to be specific to Jackson Perspective 2 with their income riders, but I just want you to conceptually understand how an income rider works and how that calculation works regarding benefit base and withdrawal rate percentage, because this will help you decipher whether you're leveraging Jackson or you're leveraging any other type of annuity out there, whether it's a good product or it's a good income rider, or if it's a bad product and a bad income rider. So what do I mean by that? So just like we have a calculation on an account value grows by contributions and rate of return. Whenever we're looking underneath the hood to determine what's a good income rider, well, the whole purpose of an income rider is to produce some sort of cash flow. So the way on how this cash flow calculation works is by income base or benefit base or income benefit base or GLWB benefit base. Each carrier has their own marketing term for what this benefit base is. At the end of the day, it's a calculation account. It's not your real money. It's not your physical money. It's a calculation account. And what happens is there may be some sort of guaranteed mechanism on that benefit base that's going to roll up each year that an individual waits. When the individual becomes a specific age that they want to trigger lifetime income, that's where it multiplies by whatever the withdrawal rate percentage or payout rate percentage is at that specific time. So like if I'm going and I'm looking underneath the hood and I'm comparing two companies, I'm saying, okay, I have company A that has an income rider, and this is an individual's age 60, and this individual wants to retire at age 65, company A is going to give this person a 7% roll-up guarantee on their income rider, versus company B is going to give them a 5% guarantee on their roll-up on their income benefit base account. That's going to be a 5% roll-up guarantee for the income rider. If this person put $100,000 with company A, we know that, and we're just going to use simple interest, after year one, their income base or their benefit base would be at $107,000. After year two, $114,000. Year three, $121,000. So by the time this person hits age 65, their benefit base is sitting at $135,000. Pretty self-explanatory. Now with company B, because they did not offer a 7% guarantee, they only offered a 5% guarantee. After the first year, it would have been 105, then 110. At the time that this person is age 65, company B's benefit base is $125,000. So an individual would look at this and say, oh, a 7% guarantee is higher than a 5% guarantee. Company A is going to give me more money on my income rider. And that is not the case. Because the way the formula works is benefit base multiplied by withdrawal rate percentage equals your cash flow, equals your lifetime income stream. So if, let's say company A had $135,000, but for a male age 65, their payout rate or their withdrawal rate percentage was 4%, we know if they put $100,000 of a deposit and they waited to age 65, 5 years, this person would only be able to receive $5,400 of cash flow, 5.40% off of the initial deposit. Company B, even though this number, the benefit base was smaller, the withdrawal rate percentage was higher. So the combination of these two gave this person a $6,250 cash flow from the original $100,000 deposit. So what this tells us is company B is producing this person, if they wait 5 years, a 6.250% cash flow versus company A, which is only producing this person a 5.400% cash flow. Which you might look at that and say, oh, that's not that large of a difference. But if you try to back into the math and try to say, okay, I have a $10,000 need and I need to place $10,000 into the best company with the best income rider, you would take the $10,000 need divided by the top cash flow in this example, 6.250%, and that will equal a much smaller number than going with the second place option of 5.400%. So this is what allows a person to say, okay, I'm going to decipher what's the best income rider available for me, and then making sure that you're placing the smallest dollars only as much as necessary into the correct account and into the correct income rider benefit. So I hope that that little example makes sense, because that's what tells us, how good, how powerful is the income rider if you're adding it onto a variable annuity or any sort of annuity. What's the purpose of it? Is it going to give me a max cash flow, or is there a better option available out there that has significantly cheaper fees? And it really just comes down to what sort of income that you need throughout your retirement to add on that income rider, or if you don't need income in retirement, from this specific account, then don't add an income rider to this, specific account. So we understand, ultimately underneath the hood, it goes by benefit base or income base multiplied by withdrawal rate percentage equals how much lifetime income someone's going to be able to squeeze out of that account. So the benefits, or where somebody might pitch this sort of product, would say, hey, if you go and you put your money with this Jackson variable annuity, your physical money is going to grow based on the different mutual funds and the different sub-accounts that you choose. So if you want to try to accumulate your dollars and it's tied to the market's doing well, then this account is going to accumulate. We understand, after looking underneath the hood, well, yes, it can accumulate, but it has to accumulate higher than what the fees are, and it also has to accumulate higher than if there's any downward market losses that occur within this account. So can it be leveraged for an accumulation play? Yes, it can. Does it make it effective? No. Income. This account could also produce you a lifetime income stream for either you or you and your spouse. Can it give you lifetime income? Yes. Does it make sense? Does it make mathematical sense? I don't know. It really depends on your circumstance and where this would lie in, the top options available for that individual's state for what they're trying to accomplish. Next thing, death benefit. Can you add a death benefit rider? Yes. Will that death benefit rider, can that be beneficial if the person passes away prematurely? Yes, it can. But there's a catch with the death benefit rider. There has to be physical money in your account value that you did not drain down to $0 in order for this death benefit feature to still be in force. So there's a catch with the accumulation. If someone's trying to leverage this for accumulation, there's a catch with the income, and there's a catch with the death benefit that an individual has to make sure that there's still money sitting in the account balance in order for that death benefit rider to take effect, or for the individual to receive, for the individual's beneficiaries to receive, some sort of lump sum calculation account. I've also noticed on some other features of the prospectus that it did show if somebody triggers an income rider, that they could make the death benefit rider go away. So I think it depends on which death benefit feature that they attach, which death benefit rider they attach to it. But the common consensus has been that there has to at least be an account balance that's sitting in there, that if the person's draining through their account, obviously that will reduce the odds of them actually being eligible to leave that death benefit to the beneficiaries. So that's ultimately the 30,000-foot view of how the Jackson variable annuity works. Now, what are some of the major problems that I found when looking through the prospectus? When you go through their website, you could look at their most recent prospectus and see if you're looking at the Jackson variable annuity, the Prospective 2 as an example, and you could have these little cheat sheets where it'll show you kind of a condensed version of it versus the elongated 222-page prospectus, and then some other ones on there. So there's a lot of literature for somebody to look through. Now be mindful, when I'm filming this video, it's in 2022. So there's going to be the prospectus is based off of when I'm filming this video. Things could change in the next couple of years, next couple of months, etc. But this is going to be the basis of everything. And this just shows the initial summary prospectus. So this just shows a 36-page prospectus versus we could go through the full prospectus, which has 222 pages. So this is why, just for the purpose of this video, I just want to kind of cherry pick some different things that I saw. So as we start navigating down, I'm just going to jump over to one of the sections that shows the fees. Definitions, obviously you could review this, you could contact them at any time, but this just shows what the different fees are. So it says the base contract, the maximum amount of fees is 1.31%. So those are just the different base charges of the variable annuity itself as the base contract. On top of it, they have investment options up to 2% in fees. So before we start adding any riders or any mechanisms onto this account, if we just add up these two, that's over 3% in fees from just being set up in the base contract and the different investment options in there, which is very expensive if you're trying to compare it to a traditional investment like a low-cost ETF or a low-cost mutual fund or something along those lines. So that's already very expensive. Now, an individual may want to go into a variable annuity because they say, I want to have the combination of getting accumulation, having a lifetime income stream, and also adding, a death benefit feature on there. So with that, and you have to always read the fine print, optional benefits available for an additional charge. So what they're showing in this chart is for a single optional benefit, so 1.75. So on top of the over 3% in fees, over 3.25% in fees, you're going to potentially have another 1.75% in fees, which would bring it to over 5% in fees total. And this is not even incorporating the joint lifetime income payouts on there. As we go down a little bit further, this shows, okay, the low annual cost of, what you could essentially assume if, let's say, you didn't add any bells and whistles versus if you did add some bells and whistles onto it, and how all of that works. Go down a little bit further. This shows your different death benefits. So like the basic death benefit, which I was explaining before, what's the purpose of it. So it does give you a lot of good detailed information. The problem is a lot of individuals do not want to take the time to read, a 36-page prospectus or really a 222-page prospectus, especially if they don't know what they're looking for. So as you go down a little bit further, there's just some different add-on benefits for a fee. So basically somebody could add on an earnings max benefit for a 70 basis point fee or 0.70%. If, let's say, they do not want to be in a 7-year surrender schedule, but they want to reduce that surrender schedule to a 4-year, well, then that's going to have an additional cost to it. That's going to be an extra 40 basis points. So when we start adding in these different things, base contract 1.31, investment options up to 2% in fees, other additional optional benefits 1.75, that's if they're adding income rider, death benefit riders, all of that onto the specific account for a single individual. This is showing if you want to have more of a liquidity feature, that's going to have a fee there. Roll up, so if you want to have a GMDB, guaranteed minimum death benefit, that will have a maximum fee of 1.8%. The highest quarterly anniversary, GMDB, so you could always call over to the company and find out what might be appropriate for your specific situation, but this is what it's showing in the prospectus. As we go down a little bit further, this shows more of the death benefit riders. So that death benefit rider I was mentioning, a maximum of 2%, maximum 1.6. Not saying that you're going to add 2 of them at the same time. Obviously, you'd just be adding 1 death benefit rider on there, but still, it's costly. They're not giving you this stuff for free. So you could navigate whatever is most appropriate for your situation. When we start going a little bit further down, now we start to look at the joint lifetime income streams. So the income riders that I was mentioning. And what they're showing is you have maximum fees that you could pay for a single life option of 3% and a maximum fee of 3% for a joint life option. That's extremely high considering all the other fees that you already will be paying, to have access to this specific account. So all those different fees are negatives that are occurring within this account. That's really the main purpose of this. Obviously, you can review the rest of the prospectus. You can contact them directly to find out more specific information. But just the 30,000-foot view, I want you to kind of understand if somebody gets set up in this, what are some of the benefits, what are some of the negatives, with this sort of account. So once again, the base account, you're gonna be placing monies into this account, whether that's through non-qualified monies, IRA monies, Roth IRA monies. Be mindful you're not going to commingle these sorts of dollars. So if you have an IRA with Jackson Variable Annuity, it's going to be an IRA. If you have a non-qualified account, it's going to be a non-qualified variable annuity. If you have a Roth variable annuity, it's going to be a Roth variable annuity. It's not going to commingle all those dollars. So these are the dollars that are being set up in this plan. It's going to grow based on the rate of return. So anytime that those sub-accounts or those mutual funds gain, you can receive growth. Anytime that the market or the sub-accounts or those mutual funds go down, that's going to be a negative. So this is what brings me to the point of reverse dollar cost averaging. What's ultimately happening with this bucket is you don't only have, whenever the markets are going down, you're not just getting hit with that downward market loss. If let's say you're leveraging this sort of account for an income stream, and this is why typically individuals leverage the Jackson Variable Annuity, or what we've seen why individuals leverage the Jackson Variable Annuity is because of that income rider feature. Well, that income rider feature has a fee mechanism that's attached to it. So that's going to be a fee. That's going to be a negative. That's going to be a pressure going against the account. I just exposed what those fees are, showing you from the specific prospectus or the summary prospectus, as per what their website was, as per the PDFs that you could download. So the income rider has a fee. The base contract has a fee. The sub accounts have fees, meaning the investment related accounts. You have the death benefit has a fee. If you want to have the liquidity rider, that has a fee. So now you have all these different things that are draining from the account. If let's say you just have one downward market loss hiccup, a minus 10%, minus 5%, a minus 15%, very realistic scenario, that just adds a further negative or further someone taking a sword and slicing that bucket. On top of it, because you're hitting retirement, typically individuals aren't adding more monies into this account. So that's blocking off the positive that you would be adding from the contribution side. So now you're relying solely on rate of return. You're relying on these fees to hopefully be low, which we know could be significantly high. It could be very significant. You have potential downward market loss that could hinder the account. And then what are you going to be leveraging this account for is withdrawals. So every time you're pulling out withdrawals, that's going to further reduce this account. So now what you did was you stopped contributions. So you stopped any of the positives. If the markets are going sideways or they're going down, this is just going to have the further compound interest effect to go negatively against your account. When you keep pulling out monies, and you have all these negatives that are working against it, and you're leveraging that power of compound interest of reverse dollar cost averaging, that could liquidate the account balance to $0 very, very quickly. When those monies go to $0 of a balance, then you lose out, or majority of the features that we've seen are they get lost, and meaning that you would lose like the death benefit feature because there would be no more money sitting in there to leave a death benefit to beneficiaries. So by adding these little mechanisms, it just could further hurt your situations. And so this is why you want to be very careful with the fees and the different things, the different mechanisms that you're adding to this account. Downward market loss, because it's a variable account, you don't have specific floor mechanisms like you would with fixed or fixed indexed accounts. Low lifetime income guarantee. So like as I explained before, does it make sense to add an income rider? And I said that depends. Now, one of the things that we've noticed is whenever we're comparing a Jackson National variable annuity or other sorts of variable annuities with income riders, is they don't come close to the same lifetime income that you could receive from more of a fixed indexed account with an income rider or a fixed account with an income rider. Those fixed accounts and fixed indexed accounts, which are hybrid annuities with income riders, produce higher cash flow when we're comparing an apples to apples mechanism of when the person's placing monies in there to when they want to retire. So that's some different food for thought, that if there's a way to get a superior product, why would you go into an inferior solution, especially an inferior solution that could completely destroy your account balance? Also losing the death benefit. If let's say your account balance goes down to $0 because you keep living, you're pulling out monies from that account. Well, what was the whole purpose of that death benefit rider? Was to try to be there upon your death. Well, if it's not there when you need it the most, well, then that's a detriment. Or in my opinion, that's a detriment. The last problem that we essentially notice is the restricted liquidity. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a make or break to have a liquidity rider onto that account. I think that if somebody is setting this up for an income play or a death benefit play, that, you know, the decreasing surrender schedule really shouldn't make too much of a difference. Rather than, you know, if you're only going to go into a product for 4 years, well, then it might not make sense to really stay into that product unless you're looking to do it for the lifetime. So you really want to match up what your goal is to say, okay, is this account that's going to act like a tool going to be the most effective, most efficient for what I'm trying to do? But yeah, I mean, the restricted liquidity, if let's say instead of the 7-year decreasing surrender schedule, you want to go on the 4-year decreasing surrender schedule, they're going to charge you for that liquidity rider. You know, and then also within the first 4 years, you're going to have access up to a portion of your dollars penalty free. And that's going to be standard with all sorts of annuity accounts. But, you know, when it comes to variable annuities, they're already hitting you with a bunch of fees. So that's where, you know, that could just be kind of the cherry on top of just a large amount of fees that have accumulated. So whenever somebody's looking at the Jackson National variable annuities or different types of variable annuities out there, they might be saying, hey, you know, it sounded great because I was going to have some accumulation, I was going to have some income, I was going to have some death benefit, it was kind of going to be a jack of all trades. One of the things that I don't like with variable annuities, especially variable annuities with income riders, is it acts like an inefficient vehicle, similar to a duck boat. If you know what a duck boat is, it's a half boat and it's a half car. It doesn't make a very good car and doesn't make a very good boat. Can it drive on land? Yes. Can it ride in the water? Yes. But it doesn't mean it's going to, you know, stand up against you know, if it's trying to have a race with a speedboat's going to destroy it. If it's trying to have a race with a Ferrari's going to absolutely, you know, crush it in a race. So what is the purpose that you're trying to leverage this for? And don't try to use a jack of all trades type concept to try to say, okay, it's going to give me a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And this is where you want to make sure that it's sticking to its specific lane. So whenever we're dealing with somebody and they say, hey, I need X amount of dollars of income, I understand that I'm 60 years old right now. I don't want to retire by the time I'm age 65. At age 65, I'm going to be receiving Social Security income. I don't have pension income, but I have a bunch of money sitting from 401k, IRA monies, Roth IRAs, and cash accounts. Based on my Social Security income stream, this is going to generate, between me and my spouse, we're going to generate $50,000 of income. Our expense need is $80,000. This is how much that we have to, this is our ultimate goal to get to, that we have to make sure we're covering $80,000 of income every single year to the day that we pass away, starting at age 65 onward until date of death. We understand with this example, it's a $30,000 gap. If we're looking underneath the hood and it says, okay, we need an income strategy, well, then we want to account for what's going to be the best, most effective, most efficient route to create this $30,000 based on the individual's non-qualified monies, IRA monies, Roth IRA monies, 401k monies. How exactly can you do that most effectively? When we're comparing the correct strategies and the correct tools, what we notice is variable annuities are not at the top of the list. So this is where when someone's trying to use that income rider for that max cash flow, put it with the best possible income rider available. So if let's say somebody has $1 million of investable assets, of monies that was saved up, and it's going to cost this person $300,000 to put it with the correct IRA or the correct solution that's with an annuity, but it's with the correct annuity with the correct income rider, meaning that they wait 5 years and then they trigger income, and this is going to generate $30,000 of lifetime income, single or joint, really whatever that case is, well then that's a viable solution. As opposed to going through an inferior product, could be a Jackson, could be some other sort of variable annuity, and maybe to get that same $30,000 of income, it might cost them $700,000. So this is just an example. It's not the specific account, but this is the difference, is you could save yourself thousands upon thousands of dollars by going in the correct area to make sure that you're accomplishing that need. Another solution may be just creating a withdrawal strategy while eliminating reverse dollar cost averaging. So if we understand how that bucket mechanism works, but we want to have with increasing interest rate environment, you now have attractive fixed options or fixed index options that you might not have to add income riders to. So something that could still get a reasonable rate of return that will have no fees associated with it, no downward market loss associated with it, and the negatives that would be coming back would just be pulling out withdrawals from this specific account. So by just pulling out withdrawals, it's reducing a large portion of that reverse dollar cost averaging mechanism, which I explained before with the power of compound interest working negatively against your account. By eliminating the downside of the downward market losses, by eliminating the fees, that could create a more mathematically appropriate route for somebody creating a withdrawal strategy that doesn't like the concept of an income rider. So that would be another viable solution that could be much better than leveraging a variable annuity. Let's say somebody's using a growth-related strategy. Well, we understand variable annuities are going to have sub-accounts, and it's going to ebb and flow with how well those mutual funds or those sub-accounts perform. But on top of it, you have a lot of fees in there. So what the Reef Method is, we have a design, I coined the term Reef Method. It stands for risk. What is the individual's risk tolerance? What is the eggs in their basket, or what are the eggs available to them? Meaning, how many options do you have available for a growth-related strategy? Are there a few thousand, or are there only, a couple of dozen that you have available to you? Then we look underneath the hood, we examine what are the top solutions based on your risk tolerance. And then F is fees, how to reduce the fees. As an example, if someone goes into a low-cost ETF or index fund, that could be maybe cost this person, 0.10% or less. Well, that's a significantly less fee than something that might be 5% in fees every year, which is still going to ebb and flow with the market, but now you have this constant 5% drag going against the account. So there's different ways on how to make sure that your growth and your accumulation strategy could be more effective, more efficient. And then from a death benefit standpoint, you could go and leverage actual death benefit related accounts. You could use this through life insurance. You could leverage this through pension maximization strategies. You could add death benefit riders onto accounts that are never going to be touched. So there's a couple of different ways to do that effectively, but by try to, add all these different mechanisms onto an account, such as the Jackson National Variable Annuity, which unfortunately that's what we've seen with the cases that come into our office with somebody that either got set up or they're being pitched a Jackson National Variable Annuity. This is why I'm bringing up these different scenarios. So if you found value in this video and you want to have a further discussion regarding your specific situation, what your goals are, where you are right now, where you essentially want to get to, feel free to give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you could have access to the most updated videos. And when calling in, just make sure to reference this video so that we could, set you up with the correct advisor to handle, what your specific needs are, or run stress tests and kind of go from there. But, I want to thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you.